U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning to Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin if there is no ceasefire deal. During a Fox News interview on board Air Force One, Trump said if the deal does not, he is going to head back home real fast. This as he flies to Alaska to meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin for a high-stakes summit. Take a listen.
Trump on Air Force One heading in. What's your initial feeling? How are you feeling about what you're going to get out of this?
I think we're going to do very well. Our country is doing very well. We're setting records economically like we never have before, including the stock markets are all at a record high. We're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars with tariffs. We're going for a meeting with President Putin in Alaska. And I think it's going to work out very well. And if it doesn't, I'm going to head back home real fast.
I mean, if it doesn't, you walk.
I would walk too.
And well, that's the news coming in. Trump threatening to walk away if there's no deal that's reached. Ms. Townsend is still here with us. Ms. Townsend, if you can just talk to us about the location of the summit. Out of all the options that were put forth, the summit is taking place in Alaska, which has also been agreed upon by the Russian president. Your assessment of this?
Well, the location that they're meeting is shorthand is called JBER. That stands for Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. It was at one time the Elmendorf Air Force Base and Fort Richardson Army setting, and then they combined to be this joint base and fort at the edge of Anchorage. That's a very secure location, obviously, and so that's where they will meet. And it had been discussed that there might be several other locations that they'd consider, but they settled on JBER, and it could be said that it's almost a halfway point. It's about 1,000 miles farther for President Putin to travel, about 4,300 miles as opposed to 3,300 miles for President Trump. So there's sort of that halfway meeting point. And of course, at one point in time, Alaska was Russian territory. So it's of note that Putin is coming here to a place that at one point in time did belong to Russia.
Right, Ms. Townsend, let's also just talk about the aspect that we were talking about earlier with Trump going back and forth on his statement and saying earlier that there's a 25% chance of failure, now clearly saying that he will go back if there's no deal secured with the Russian president.
The difficulty is in knowing what he means by what the deal will be. As we've heard from President Zelensky of Ukraine, he has rejected any notion that they would cede territory, and in fact, the Ukrainian constitution would not allow him to do that. He couldn't just arbitrarily say, okay, we will give up these areas based on what their national constitution says. So it's difficult to imagine how they will come out of this with some sort of a deal that would have Russia giving up the land that they have now laid claim to in Ukraine. Russia also says that they don't want Ukraine to become a NATO country. And I don't know how they will be able to come to some sort of an agreement. It will be really interesting to see what they do come out and say. They have preliminarily, if they come to some sort of agreement, what they may state. And then, of course, that would need to next involve President Zelensky of Ukraine to see if he can agree to whatever terms they may put forward.
Right, Ms. Townsend, we were just talking about how there's been a lot of back and forth from Trump. Earlier, he said it's a feel-out meet, and the White House saying that it's a listening exercise. And now this statement where Trump says he will go back if there's no deal secured with the Russian president. Do you think that he's changing gears really fast, or are we hearing differently? And do you think this is one of the biggest tests for the U.S. President Donald Trump?
I do. As you played a clip just recently, former State Department head Hillary Clinton said that she would nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize if he were able to end this war, which was kind of a surprise because I had, you would not think that they were exactly friendly with each other. So it was of note that she had made that statement. I think that President Trump often goes back and forth. He'll say something and then he changes his mind. And so I don't feel that this is uncommon of this president to say, we're going to do this, and then maybe a couple of days later change his thoughts about that. And I'm not sure if that's because he's kind of thinking it through as he goes, or if it's part of his tactics of keeping people a little bit unsure of exactly what he wants so that he has perhaps more leverage in negotiations.
I'm talking about leverage in the negotiations at this point of time. According to you, who has an upper hand? Is it Trump or Putin at this point of time?
Oh my, I would not speculate on who has an upper hand here. It's very difficult to say. This is a really fraught situation, and there's so much on the line, so many lives on the line. My hope is that they would come forward in a few hours and say, we have come to an agreement and it's something that President Zelensky can agree to. I worry that that will be very, very difficult, but hope springs eternal that something good will come out of this massive effort, because this is no small endeavor to have a U.S. president and the president of Russia meet here in Alaska. And so I would hope that something productive could come out of these discussions. And many Alaskans have expressed that as well. Many folks who are protesting because of their displeasure over the war in Ukraine have also said that they are very hopeful that something good will come from this summit.
Right, Ms. Townsend, the world braces for the high-stakes Alaska summit, and we're also getting live visuals from Alaska there. The red carpet welcome being prepared there for the Russian President Vladimir Putin. In just an hour from now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin will be landing in Alaska, and the U.S. President as well. An hour ago, the U.S. President said that he will be meeting the Russian President at his plane before heading towards the high-stakes Alaska summit. And these are the live visuals from Alaska that we're getting at this point of time. A clear high-stakes meet between both the leaders, and as we can see, the red carpet has been rolled out for the Russian President and the U.S. President Donald Trump ahead of the meeting.
However, wherever you take notice, I'm following. So when you come off the plane.
Right, Ms. Townsend, I also want to talk to you about the fact that the Kremlin has said that it's going to be a 6 to 7 hours meeting between both the leaders. Apart from, of course, the ceasefire in Ukraine, what else? What are the other issues that will dominate the discussions between both the leaders? And where do you see ties between U.S. and Russia moving forward after this meeting?
Again, very, very difficult to say. There's been a lot of speculation about what President Trump may offer to Russia. We have no confirmation of any of these notions about critical minerals or any other type of some sort of deal for resources that they might make. We have heard nothing about that, only speculation from other outlets. And so it's difficult to say beyond that Herculean effort of trying to end the war in Ukraine. It would just be speculation on my part, which I'm not eager to do as to what else may come out of this. But if it helps warm the relationship between the world and Russia, I think that would be in everyone's best interest.
Right, Ms. Townsend, last question to you. What perhaps can Trump offer to the Russian president for him to agree to any kind of a ceasefire with Ukraine at this point of time?
Again, that's difficult to say because President Trump cannot negotiate on behalf of President Zelensky. President Zelensky has made that very clear, that anything about Ukraine must involve Ukraine. And so it's unclear what the president may try to do to encourage President Putin to stop this aggression, this war, and his advance into Ukraine. But President Trump likes to say he's the best at making deals, and so this is a real test of of that, and we'll see what he might be able to leverage.
Right. Ms. Townsend, of course, earlier we were talking about how Alaska was chosen as the place for summit. Do you think that the symbolism of Alaska as a state once owned by Russia perhaps adds another layer to this summit?
Absolutely. It is historically of note that Russia and Russian leaders have lamented for a very long time that they got a raw deal from their perspective when they sold Alaska. And of course, at that time, it wasn't known that there was vast reserves of oil here. And so I think Russia has been resentful of that deal, or many of the leaders in Russia have been resentful of that deal for a very long time. Every now and then we'll see things on the internet, spoof videos about claims that Russia is going to get Alaska back. And of course, Alaskans laugh at that, but it is historically of note that the Russian president is coming here after what we know of this history of Russia's sale to the U.S. in 1867.
Right, Ms. Townsend, thank you so much for joining us here on WION. That was Ms. Laurie Townsend joining us live from Anchorage in Alaska, where the high-stakes summit will take place in just a short while from now.
Thank you.